Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton. This is Rapid Reactions, brought to you by our friend Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. Texas beats the San Jose State Spartans on Saturday. Gerry, your initial thoughts as we look back at the game a day later?
Yeah, look, I think did Texas play to the standard? That's kind of one of the things Sark talks about a lot. The answer to that's no. Did Texas play a sloppy game? The answer to that is yes. Did Texas walk away 38-7 with a win in a game that they didn't even play particularly well? The answer to that's yes, too. I do think there's some areas or some players you could look at and say they took some positive steps Saturday. Did the team as a whole take a positive step? Too early to know that. I want to get a couple more looks here against UTEP and against Sam Houston to see if they can turn some of this sloppy into a little more consistent play. But Texas walked through the win. And in college football, man, there were a lot of ugly ones Saturday, and Texas won in a sloppy one, let's say.
Yeah, I think it was imperfect. Even Steve Sarkisian used the term sloppy, but I do think there were some encouraging signs.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to those in a second. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. That is Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind and think you might be due compensation, reach out to Adam and his group for a free, no strings attached consultation. Again, that's Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. Reach out to him at any time. All right. Hey, Gerry, we mentioned some encouraging signs.
Yeah.
And I will say this, Arch Manning, while not perfect by any stretch, certainly looked more like the Arch Manning we were hoping to see at the outset. He connected on a couple deep balls. He's finding a receiver now in Parker Livingstone and maybe even Jack Injuries that he can really rely on. I think we're just seeing a natural progression of a big-time quarterback. And I'm going to say this, it's early in his career. It is still really early. 4 touchdowns, 1 TD rushing. Yes, he had the pick. No, he wasn't perfect, but I thought it was a step forward.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I thought Arch played pretty well in the pocket, right? I mean, San Jose State might have got a little more pressure than the Texas staff would have liked to see, but I thought he moved well in the pocket. I thought he played well in the pocket. Look, the interception, he was just trying to do too much with the ball. I mean, I think he hit his hands on his head after that when he knew he tried to do too much of that ball instead of just throwing it away. But I thought overall he played really well Saturday, or showed a lot of improvement. Because, again, I look at Arch Manning and strip away the unrealistic expectations and think about where he is as a quarterback in terms of his experience. And I think where he's at in terms of his experience, he took a step forward on Saturday in the win over San Jose State. I thought the first completion to Ryan Wingo, really good. The ball Wingo dropped was a tremendous pass, right? I thought Arch threw a lot of really good balls on Saturday. And I thought there were a lot of good second progression throws for him Saturday. And obviously he made some plays with his feet. But, again, I think he took a step on Saturday. And I expect him to take another step against Utah and another step against Sam Houston State heading into the off week before the big game at the Swamp.
You said Utah. I think you meant UTEP.
UTEP. I don't want Utah right now.
Hey, no, not quite yet. That defense may be a little stingier than UTEP's. Gerry, you mentioned that. I mentioned at the outset of this, at the discussion of the improvement, that Arch is finding some receivers he feels like he can rely on. Obviously, Parker Livingston and Jack Injuries, both of them have some connection with Arch. Both get 2 touchdowns apiece. But even Arch said in his postgame presser that he wants to develop more with Ryan Wingo. They've got to get Wingo the ball in his hands more frequently.
Well, look, if you labeled the receivers wire 1, 2, and 3, wire 1 and 2 are more Wingo and more, right? Going into the season, that's what it was. Emmett Mosley, we'll see where he's at when he comes back from injury. Obviously, Parker Livingstone, Jack Injuries, they get some really favorable matchups. But I do think there's a major case to be made that if Ryan Wingo doesn't raise his level quite a bit and Arch Manning and him don't find that connection Texas needs, this offense can't come close to maximizing what it can do. I thought there was more. DeAndre Moore had a really good catch on the sideline today from Arch Manning, and I think you'll see those guys continue to develop in the game as well. But really, when you look at this, I think Parker Livingstone, again, makes all the plays he needs to make for Texas. Jack Injury's the same, and he'll be more of a weapon. Wait until Nick Towns and some of those guys get going and Emmett Mosley gets back. But Ryan Wingo and Arch Manning have to get on the same page completely by become SEC play if this team is going to have the look of a team offensively that can compete in a college football playoff.
Outside of the famous Sark spurt that we always see in games where they roll off, they rolled off 28 points in 10 plays on Saturday. Outside of that, it was a largely incomplete or ineffective performance at times from the offensive line. After a really good performance against Ohio State, did they have more problems picking up pressure against San Jose State, or was it something else, or just learning curve for a team, for an offensive line that needs to gel against a variety of looks?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I thought individually there was a guy or two that may have struggled more today than they did against Ohio State, but Ohio State didn't bring a lot of numbers at the Texas offensive line in Columbus. They pretty much played it straight up to make sure they contained the pass. So I thought that was a little different, that these new Texas starters on the offensive line, or these guys that are gaining in-game experience, they had a lot more flying at them, a lot more in the peripheral from San Jose State bringing numbers in this game. I think, one of the glaring things, whether it's offense in whole in general, quarterback, wide receivers not on the same page, offensive line not playing as well as you'd like, 1 of 9 on third downs when Arch exited the game. That may have been the worst statistical number of Saturday for the Texas Longhorns in this game. 1 of 9 on third downs. That's a mixture of everything, but the offensive line has to take part of that on their shoulders as well. So that's the number you did not like Saturday, is 1 of 9 on third downs when they started rotating in some of the backups.
I will add this. It was an average of 9.7 yards a distance to gain on third down. So they weren't being successful on a consistent basis on first and second downs, Jerry. And that kind of put them behind the chains. And that allowed San Jose State to dial up different pressures. They brought the corner several times. They had coupled with a free run at Arch. That's, in fact, what caused the interception, I think. So, look, the Longhorns have some work to do all across the offense, but I think it's fair to say the defense continues to be the glue of this team. They forced 4 turnovers, quite a turnaround from that perspective, where they forced none last week against Ohio State, but 2 by Anthony Hill on a forced fumble. Also, you look at Ty Anthony Smith getting in on the action, as well as a deflection to Jalen Gilbo. 4 turnovers. What did you think of the Texas defense? Because they were playing most of this game with a light box.
Yeah, light box at 273 yards for San Jose State, and a very vanilla scheme from Texas defensively. Look, light box, off coverage. They weren't really showing anything defensively in this game. That's the one thing I'll say. That was pretty much Texas talent out there playing against San Jose State without PK and the staff really dialing much up. You mentioned Anthony Hill's making plays on the ball. Ty Anthony Smith, we kind of said this is a game tailor-made for him. He is so good in space. LaFau really solid against the run. The Texas linebackers, again, Trey Bohr almost had a scoop and score. The Texas linebackers are really, really good. And I think that's one of the things I've taken from the first 2 games. Jelani McDonald, I thought, played terrific on Saturday, was around the ball, was really good in coverage. I thought we saw some really good things from Jelani McDonald. And, look, I'm going to throw a name out there, Bobby, that's playing more than I thought he would 2 games into the season's Lance Jackson.
Yep.
And Lance Jackson had a batted ball. He's getting good push, one-on-one. Lance Jackson is showing that he's going to be, I think, a big-time player at Texas pretty early on in his career. Is showing that he's going to be a big-time player for the Longhorns here after he gets his feet wet, probably in the next year.
I want to circle back and talk about the freshmen here in a little bit, Jerry.
Yeah.
But I want to finish my thought process on the defense and then move on to special teams. The defense also, Jerry, just seems to be taking it up a notch. I felt like they did not tackle particularly well in this game, but getting those strips, they really 3 forced fumbles is tremendous for the Longhorns. So all in all, I felt like it was just another Pete Kwiatkowski-esque type of defense. I mean, other than the defensive performance, other than the turnovers, they had 2 sacks on the day. I think that it was a very workmanlike performance, but you look at the final scoreboard, they've allowed now in 2 games 14 points and 7 points. I mean, that's about as good as you're going to get in college football these days. So I think the defense is on stride or in stride and where they need to be. Special teams is a different story. I really was disappointed in special teams on Saturday. And it wasn't because they did anything that was just so egregious that it was just, it embodied the sloppiness, in my opinion. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean a hold on a punt return. I mean letting a ball bounce in front of you, Ryan Niblett, and let it roll inside the 10. I mean Manny Muhammad, who's a third-year junior, has been on the teams for a while, running into the kicker. I mean Jack Bowmeister even getting into the act and not getting a punt down inside the 20, really, or even the 10 when he had multiple opportunities. While we talk about improvement, I thought we saw improvement on offense on Saturday. I thought we saw the Texas defense be the defense we thought they were. But I'm telling you, they need to improve as much or more on special teams right now than they do offense. I mean, it was not a great performance, and they didn't do anything that left me thinking that it was going to improve, other than Bowmeister showed us before that he can drop punts inside the 10. But they've got some work to do on special teams.
Yeah, I think so. Look, Mason Shipley did make a right hash kick in his first field goal attempt. So that was very good for my eyes and my heart and my mind. But yeah, look, I'm not seeing game-changing ability. I'm not seeing that ability to, with Xavier Worthy and even Silas Bolden, you always thought, okay, these guys are risky, but they're a hair away from making a huge play that could change the momentum of game. I'm not getting the feeling we're close to any momentum changing plays on special teams. Positively. Negatively, we had one of those almost with the failed block punt attempt. If that would have been a quality opponent, that probably would have ended up being 7 points the other way when you give somebody second life in a series. But that's my problem is, and look, Bowmeister ended up with 6 punts for 44-yard average. But again, we're not seeing anything that threatens a quality opponent. And that's what's going to have to change, because that's putting even more pressure on the Texas offense if you don't have any game-changing ability on special teams.
All right, let's talk a little bit more. We went through the offense and the defense as well as special teams. Let's now go to something I wanted to talk about, and that's those freshmen. Texas emptied the bench on Saturday. Not only did we see Nick Townsend very early in the game, we also saw Amari Winston with his first catch. On the defensive, and then we saw Khalil Lockett, Jamie French get action, as well as Dalen McCutcheon. Then on the defensive side of the ball, we saw Lance Jackson, Justice Terry very early. Josiah Sharma registered a defensive tackle. Also, Myron Charles got in the game a little bit. Bo Barnes, Jonathan Cunningham. The list goes on and on. Cade Phillips had a pass defended as well. Those guys, some of those guys, as well as Grayson Littleton, who's now a starter, basically, those guys are starting to get a little action, which is what we wanted to see over this weekend and over the next 2 weekends to start building that depth. You mentioned Lance Jackson as someone that's doing that for Texas and building that depth. Other guys you see maybe getting into that stratosphere is a guy that can maybe help Texas down the line based on what you saw on Saturday.
Khalil Lockett's going to be one for me.
Okay.
Khalil Lockett had a couple of receptions in the game, and one was a reception over the middle, which is what you want to see from a young receiver. Had 2 for 22. So I look for him to get more action, because I think Texas is going to need guys who can make big plays on offense, and I think he has that ability with his body control and that length. I'll tell you what, we didn't see him today, Bobby, but I think James Simon's getting closer, getting an opportunity here for Texas, because, again, Jarrett Gibson, he had some impressive runs, the fumble late. Christian Clark's 7 carries for 21 yards in his first college action. maybe didn't look quite as explosive as we thought he would, but maybe that changes second game. But I think we're getting close to a James Simon getting in the game. Justice Terry drew a holding penalty. Lance Jackson obviously is going to be a player. Grayson Littleton, I thought was good for him. Grayson Littleton got so much praise last week. You have to lose some of these battles to develop too. And I thought Saturday was a real learning experience for Grayson Littleton. And that game will actually make him a better player than the success against Ohio State will. That was good for his confidence. Saturday against San Jose State was great for his development. Bo Barnes got in. I really like where these young kids are for Texas. And again, Lance Jackson is going to play more. Even Smith Orokpo got on the field.
Yep, I forgot about Smith. Yep.
I mean, coming off the knee injury last year, missing his senior season. But I really love this freshman class, and we've said it before. Sharma, Charles, all these guys getting in. Jonathan Cunningham got some action late in the game as well. But I really look at Lance Jackson. I look at Grayson Littleton as the guys on defense right now. And I'm telling you, I'm going to watch for James Simon to get some opportunities the next couple of weeks at running back, especially if Trey Wisner continues to be banged up a little and they let him heal, because Christian Clark and Jarrett Gibson, neither one of those guys did anything to establish themselves as the guy, which is going to open up an opportunity for Simon moving forward.
I would say this and add this to it as far as that freshman class. As you look at them, Cade Phillips with that pass defended was really good. We did not, however, see two guys that we thought we might on Saturday. That is Nick Brooks, tackle prospect, did not come in late. Brandon Baker stayed in at right tackle. So you have to wonder if Brooks may still be serving a little bit of that suspension for what happened. Also, Wardell Mack did not play as well. Now, he's a redshirt freshman. But the other freshman that we did not see is Jonah Williams, who returned to full practice this week. So maybe we see him next week instead. There's still some meat on the bone there.
And by the way, with Jonah Williams, Texas fans, remember our conversation on special teams earlier in this video. Texas needs a playmaker on special teams, and it's going to be Jonah Williams when he gets healthy. He's natural at it, and I guarantee you, they are going to give him opportunities in the return game. They have to.
They need somebody that looks confident back there returning punts. And that's not a knock on Ryan Niblett, because I think he gives his heart and soul to this Texas program. They got to have some people, though, that can make people miss and go up and field a fair catch so they don't lose 13 yards and start a drive off at your 7-yard line because you're not seeing the ball clearly or tracking it well enough. So those are the things that we all know that they've got to get better at, Jerry. It's just that's what it is. All right. In sum, I just want to sum it up with you here, Jerry. I felt like the offense improved, but not enough. Still some sloppy penalties, whether it was a hold, whether it was a false start, a hold from Parker Livingston to start the first game.
As Rod Baber said, a play they probably worked on 15 times during the week, and you hold on a 30-yard gain on the first play.
Yeah, it's hard. Those kind of things are what they need to clean up. And then, Arch does make a couple of bad throws, but he also makes a couple that should have been caught. And it's that kind of sloppiness that you see. But you did see what I think is improvement on offense. You saw a more functional offense. Now, that could be predicated on who they played against. I think that's a lot of it. But you also saw Arch get his timing down a little bit better. He didn't look like he was a deer in the headlights. No. He didn't have the yips or anything like that. No. On defense, I just think it's more of the same. And this is just somebody may score a lot of points this year on Texas. I don't know who, but I got to be honest. I feel pretty strongly that this Texas defense is special. I just really adding Anthony Smith to it adds another playmaker. You saw a NASCAR package on Saturday that had Colin Simmons and Brad Spence together on the same side. I just get the feeling, and you get the sense, if they can come together on the back end, where Grayson Littleton maybe didn't have a great day on Saturday. Jalen Gilbo was off and on a little bit. If they could come together on that back end and coalesce against great quarterbacks, I think they're going to be a really, really, really good defense. I mean, 14 and 7 points through 2 games, one against the number 1 team in the country. You'll take that every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Who put up 69 yesterday, going to 1AA, but still 69 points. I want to say this one thing I forgot to mention, and I do think it's going to be a key for offensive football for Texas this year. If they're going to pitch the ball out to the perimeter and they're going to have any sort of screen game, they have got to improve by leaps and bounds blocking on the perimeter.
They really do, yeah.
Because blocking on the perimeter may actually be the weak point right now of the entire offense, because there is just everybody, the opponent's getting off the blocks a split second, 2 split seconds too quick for those plays to be successful against high level competition. That is an area that's got to improve immensely in my eyes.
All right, that's going to do it. Thanks again to our sponsor, Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind and think you might be due compensation, please visit loweylawfirm.com. They'll give you a free consultation to see if you are due compensation. All right, Jerry, Longhorns now 1-1. They've got a matchup next week against UTEP at home. We'll be back here again this week for Coffee and Football. Later today, we have grades coming up. We also have Rod Baber's second watch. He's going to watch the game again for everybody. Make sure he breaks down all the plays he thinks you guys might want to know. And then tonight, we'll be back with the live stream on Sunday night. All right, for Gerry Hamilton and our producer, Matt Hutchison, I'm Bobby Burton. Thanks also to our friend Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. Hook up.